Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather, and in today's video I want to give you guys a few signs that I saw before I went into labor that I know for sure were my body's way of preparing me for the big day. So today is Friday. I gave birth 1 week from today, so last Friday, and I went into labor Thursday. But before I went into active labor, there were a few things that my body was doing that I believe was my body's way of preparing me for the actual day that I went into labor. So a few things that I did throughout my pregnancy that I truly believe gave me the most amazing birth and delivery that I could ever dream of was prepare my body in different ways. So at 30 weeks, I started having 1 glass of red raspberry leaf tea every single day, and it was just 1 tea bag. So 1 glass, 1 tea bag. And then at 32 weeks, I started having 2 glasses, 2 tea bags. And at 34 weeks, I increased it by 1 more bag. And by 36 weeks, I was drinking 4 of the tea bags. So that could be 4 cups a day. But what I would do is I would take 2 tea bags in the morning and put it in my mug, and then 2 tea bags at night and put that in my mug, and that's how I would have my tea. So one thing that I truly believe also, just kind of skipping forward to postpartum really quick, is the amount of red raspberry leaf tea I had. I totally give credit to it for my postpartum bleeding. I had little bleeding at birth, and even now, 7 days later after giving birth, I'm almost not even bleeding anymore, and this is the least amount of time that I have had postpartum bleeding in any of my pregnancies. If you're new and don't know, this is my 5th, and so it's crazy that set by day 7, I barely even have any postpartum bleeding. And I totally believe that was from the red raspberry leaf tea. And even when I was in labor and they check your iron levels, mine was like 13 points, which is, I guess, really, really good. And I think it's because I had so much of that tea and it's super high in iron. So if you're not already drinking red raspberry leaf tea and you're pregnant, go ahead and start now. Some women even drink more than the amount that I drink every day, but I think ending it at 4 tea bags a day in your 3rd trimester is going to benefit you so much. And also another thing that I started doing at 34 weeks, which I think it's actually recommended to wait until you're 36 weeks, but I started early and I would have 6 dates every single day. I ate those every day, and I truly believe that helped with my labor as well. Another thing that I did was lots of squats. I did lots of squats. I also did the hip things where you made your hips uneven by walking up and down my stairs sideways, at an angle, and just trying to keep my hips open. I did the mile circuit 3 or 4 times. I didn't do a full one because I didn't want to go into labor when I was doing it. I just wanted to help prepare my body. So I cut it in half to about 15 minutes per position, and I would do that. And I would do that once or twice a week, starting at week 36. Another thing that I started to do was walk more. So I did a lot of the exercises that they recommend you doing. There was a really good YouTube video that I found. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description box below. But I actually did that workout 3 days before I went into actual labor, and I did it once the day I went into labor. And it's a really, really good way to help open everything up and prepare your body for labor. I did a lot of stretching in the last 2 weeks. I stretched throughout my entire pregnancy, but really in the last 2 weeks, I made sure to stretch in the morning, midday, and then at night, I would do a nighttime stretch just to help keep everything open and not so tense. So it's all the typical things that they say you can do: the tea, the dates, and the pineapple, which I forgot to mention. I ate so much pineapple in the last 2 weeks before I gave birth. And here's the thing. If you don't know this already, it's not the actual outside of the pineapple, it's the core. So what I would do is I would chop all the pineapple off and give that to my kids, and I would eat some of that too. But what I would do is take the core, and I would kind of eat it like a corn on the cob, and I would eat around it until I couldn't eat it anymore because it is super tough in the center. So I would just eat as much of the outside of the core as I could. And supposedly that is supposed to help soften your cervix. And then Other things that we did was obviously intimacy. That obviously helps to soften things down there too. Okay, so fast forward to when I started to see a few things happening in my body. So I went in for my 37th week appointment, and I had to be checked, because you have to be checked every week starting at 36 weeks. And he checked me, and I was about a centimeter dilated and about 50% effaced. And that's what I was previously for my 36-week appointment. So nothing changed in that week, which is totally fine if nothing is happening and changing, because your body can go into labor super quick, because that is exactly what happened to me. So there was nothing really going on. At 38 weeks, I went in and got checked again, and I was still just a 1 and maybe a little more of like 60% effaced, but nothing too crazy going on at my 38-week appointment. So I had that appointment on a Tuesday, and then I was going to have him stretch me. I was going to have him do the membrane sweep, but I didn't want to be in pain, and I was kind of debating on whether I wanted that done or not. So I didn't have it done at my 38-week appointment. So fast forward to the weekend, I started to feel a little crampy, and I felt like things were just starting to, I don't know, like I felt like a lot of pressure down in my pelvic area, and I was feeling lots of cramps and starting to get little back aches and things like that. And so on Monday, I actually called in to see if I could go in a day early, and they were available for me to go in. So I went in on Monday, and the doctor went ahead and gave me a very soft sweep. It wasn't like a full sweep, it was just a half sweep. So he did the half sweep, and he also said that I was almost a 3 and I was 60% effaced still. So some more progress was happening from all the contractions over the weekend, which was really good. And then also another thing, that day I started contracting. So I wasn't contracting previously, I was just having a lot of cramps and some discomfort. But after he did the half sweep, I started to contract more and more every day until I gave birth. So starting on Monday, when I had that done, I was having contractions they were just irregular. They weren't anything consistent and nothing to really time, but I was having them consistently, like throughout the day, and then they would stop for a few hours, and then I would get them again. They would wake me up in the middle of the night, and then they would go away, and they were just like that for 3 days. So on Wednesday, I called my doctor back, and I said, hey, can I come in? I'm really uncomfortable, and I was hoping that I could be checked again. And also I was hoping that maybe he could give me a full sweep just to get things going, because I was already in so much pain. And also something else that happened that I forgot to mention. So back to Monday, after my sweep, I started losing my mucus plug. And I really thought that my mucus plug was my bloody show at the moment, because there was a tinge of blood in it, but it was more of just my mucus plug, I believe, with maybe a little bit of a bloody show. But I actually got my bloody show the day I went into labor, and that is, to me, different than the mucus plug, just FYI. But I lost my mucus plug for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I just would lose chunks of it all throughout those 3 days. And each time it had a little bit of blood in it. And then on Wednesday, I called and I asked my doctor if there was any way that I could be checked again. And they weren't available for that day, so I had to wait until the next day. On Thursday, I was able to get an appointment around 2 o'clock on Thursday. And he checked me, and I was like 3.5 centimeters dilated, and I was about 80% effaced, so more progress. He went ahead and gave me another sweep, but this one was more of like similar to the first one, not super painful. It wasn't like a full sweep, because I had mentioned to him that I was in a lot of pain and I didn't want to be in more discomfort if it wasn't going to progress into anything. So he gave me a little bit more of a fuller sweep, I guess, than the one he gave me previously. And let me tell you, that really, I think, did the trick, because after my appointment, I went home and I told my husband, hey, the doctor thinks that hopefully this weekend the baby could come. And this was Thursday. And my husband said, okay, all right, well, we're ready. We're ready for this to happen. And I was definitely ready as well. And so I asked my husband, at this time it was already around 4 o'clock, hey, let's go grab dinner. That way, like, if I go into labor tonight or in the morning, like, I don't have to worry about making a mess in the kitchen, and it's just so much easier. So we went about 10 minutes down the road and grabbed dinner. And while we were at dinner, I started having contractions every like 5 minutes, like on the dot. And this lasted the entire time we were eating. And they were so painful, where it kind of almost made me feel like, oh my gosh, like what if like things are speeding up super quick? This is my fifth baby. So I was concerned that I was actually going into labor and that it was going super fast. But really it was just because he gave me a sweep and things were just kind of like irritated. And so I asked the waiter if we could have our food to go, and we grabbed our food to go because I just wanted to get home. And we drove home, and on our way home, I was having so many like contractions and so much pressure, and I had to actually like breathe through them. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, Lord, like we lived 40 minutes away from town. So I'm like thinking in my head, like, oh my gosh, like this is already feeling like I might be in active labor. Like, what if I'm already in active labor? It's been 3 hours since he's checked me by now. And so we get home really fast. We call my in-laws, tell them, why don't you guys go ahead and come over? I think that maybe we want to go to the hospital when we get home. We get home, I eat my leftovers, we get the kids settled down, my in-laws show up, and by this time it's like 7:30 and things like slow down. So it was very disappointing, and they just kind of like stalled. My contractions were about 7 to 10 minutes apart, and then they would go to 15 minutes, and then they would stop. And then, so it was just like 2 or 3 hours of just irregular contractions, and we ended up not going to the hospital. So my in-laws went ahead and they left, they went home. And then after that, we decided to go to bed and just have like our normal nighttime routine. And if, you know, the contractions started again in the middle of the night, we would go and call them back or go into the hospital at that point. So at that point we went to bed, and we were in bed, I think it was like around 9:30. And I remember laying in bed and I looked at my phone, and it was around 9:30, and I closed my eyes and I fell asleep for like 25 minutes. And then I woke up to this intense contraction. And this contraction lasted for like like a full minute. And then I told my husband, wow, that one was really strong. Like that one, it's so confusing because these feel strong and they feel like you're in active labor, but they're so irregular that they're not counting towards active labor. Oh, I gotta hurry up because he's starting to squeak. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so I had that really big contraction, and then I fell asleep again. 30 minutes later, I had another intense contraction. Didn't think anything of it. Thought, okay, I'm just going to try to sleep these off, and my body will wake me up if I need to be concerned, or if they are going to go into anything else, like my body will wake me up. I went back to sleep, and then around 11 o'clock, I got a super hard contraction again, but this one was even more like intense than the one that I got like a second ago. And with this one, there was like so much pressure that I actually felt the baby's head, like, and I know this sounds super crazy, but I actually felt the baby's head like push down into my pelvic area and put so much pressure. Like it's such an intense feeling that you just don't forget it. And I remember when that happened, I felt the urge to use the restroom. So I went to go pee, and I had blood, and I was bleeding. And so that to me was my bloody show. And that freaked me out because I had never seen like blood in any of my previous labors. And if there was any, which I know it's normal now, but I didn't see it in those labors. So for me to actually see it, that I was bleeding, it really made me nervous. And it wasn't like a lot of blood. It wasn't even anything to be concerned about. It was like, I mean, the amount of like, I don't know, just a little bit on a little pad. And so I think I got super nervous that something was wrong and that I was bleeding and that I needed, to go to the hospital. So I looked at my husband and said, hey, let's just go to the hospital. This is making me nervous. These contractions are all over the place. and I just want to go to the hospital. And so without going into full detail of like my labor and delivery, because I will be posting like my actual labor and delivery video in the coming weeks, I will just say this. When we left to go to the hospital, the car ride there, things got crazy intense. And I literally felt like I was going to have the baby in the car, and it just like this labor was so all over the place. I couldn't put my finger on it. I felt like I was so much further along. And then with my last pregnancy, like where I was feeling in this one felt like where I was feeling in that one when I was about to push. And it was just so intense and so crazy. And so again, 40 minutes away, we get to the hospital, they check me, and I'm like a 5, almost 6. And that was at 1 a.m. in the morning. I was 90% effaced. And so my body was definitely going and getting things going. My doctor came in a few hours later. He checked me. I was almost a 7. And he went ahead and broke my water because it was bulging and ready to break. So we went ahead and broke that. An hour and a half later, I had my baby. And so I got to the hospital at 1, had my baby by 6:45. And it like progressed so rapidly. I pushed him out in 2 pushes, and yeah, it was so intense. And once I started active labor, like at 6 centimeters, which I think that was around 3 o'clock, I like pushed him out 3 hours later, and it was crazy. Like my body just took over and just did everything, and I was there for the ride. Like it was so intense, crazy. And I truly believe that because I was so religious with the dates and the tea and the squatting and the exercises and the stretching, that all of that really helped to make like my actual labor like go super quick and my body be super efficient like during the contractions, because it was like so fast. So if you are in labor and you're trying to find videos to kind of give you like telltale signs, or to find things that are going to help you go into labor, just know that your body will go into labor when it is ready, which is something that we don't want to hear. And also, there are a few things that you can do to help prepare your body, and it's not going to hurt to do it. It might take a little bit of money and a little bit of your time, but it is worth the effort. I will tell you that. And in all of my past labors, I have never been super religious with like any of the tea or the dates. I would drink it and I would eat them here and there. But with this one, I had it pretty much every single day throughout my whole 3rd trimester. And I really think that that's what gave me my super fast labor and delivery. So that is what happened to me when my body was helping me prepare for the big day. If some of these things are happening to you, just be prepared and be on the lookout for the next few days or weeks, because maybe you too are about to go into labor. And if you've been contracting throughout like, a period of time, just know that all of those contractions are doing something, even though they may not feel like they're doing anything, they are. And also, I believe, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I think it's called prodromal labor or something like that along those lines, where you labor for like a few days, even up to like a week or 2 weeks. And it can be very draining and exhausting, but that's also like your body's way of preparing you for the big day. So good luck. I hope you guys are able to find peace in knowing that your baby will be here very soon. You won't be pregnant forever, and you'll be holding your baby in your arms before you know it. Be on the lookout for my labor and delivery video. I'm going to be posting that in the next few weeks. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless.